Let's talk about change. Thank you so much for coming back around to join us in this recorded session. We had ridiculous technology happen today, and I just hate so much when things don't go as we planned. But you know what? I am anticipating this to be even better because I operate out of the old Chinese farmer philosophy, and maybe you've seen that YouTube video or heard it when something happens to his son and the neighbors say, "Oh man, that's not good." He says, "Maybe, perhaps," and then turns around, something does good happen. And they're like, "Oh, that's so awesome." And he's like, "Maybe, perhaps." You just sometimes don't know really how things are playing out until the next day or the next day or the next day, and they compound. And so instead of attaching labels to the immediate moment, "Oh man, we failed. It didn't go as we planned," that's for sure. But also, what comes out of it might just be better. Why not? I mean, we're talking about change, we're talking about growth, and change has been happening in my life. Last month, I got myself married again, and then right afterwards, my wife went back to Minnesota. I live in Oklahoma. She left. I'm like, I don't think that's how it's supposed to work. But that's kind of the way it works in the second season. And so for a second marriage, you just have to adapt and adjust and do life as it is. And so this week, I'm moving to Minnesota. So, man, I've been in Oklahoma over 33 years, and now this is a pretty significant disruption to shift my life. And it's a change I am so looking forward to. It's a change I'm excited about. And what I have found to be mostly true is that people love change. They love change, particularly when they are the ones initiating it. Because when we initiate change, what you and I have the ability to do is see all of the possibility, to see all of the potential opportunities that may exist. And so, I'm looking forward going to Minnesota and starting an adventure there with a woman I'm crazy about. And so I'm excited about all of it. What I find though is that most of the time, you and I don't initiate change. Change just happens to us. Comes from the right, comes from the left, it comes out of nowhere. We're just doing our life, and all of a sudden, another person makes a decision. All of a sudden, the economy does something. All of a sudden, our job changes, restructures, different things we don't have any control over happen to us. And all of a sudden, we go, whoa, I don't think I like this change. I don't think I want to go with this change. I don't know if I'm able to do that. And so change gets a bad reputation because it's usually happening to us and beyond our control to adjust and to fix. If fix is even the right word. It's beyond our control to not let it happen. And so what I find is, and the philosophy I operate out of, is that people love change. What they don't like is failing, or more importantly, feeling like a failure. So oftentimes we say people resist change, but they don't. If we said, "Hey, we're going to double your salary," right? They're like, "Bring it on." As a matter of fact, you'll hear a conversation between me and John Baldino where he talks about scratchers, and it's a really great insight. If we were to say, "Hey, we're going to change your vacation time from 2 weeks to 8 weeks, and we're going to throw in a week of vacation in Hawaii on us," you would be like, "Bring on that change now." So it's all about the consequence of the change, or more accurately, our perception about the change. How we view what the possibilities or the opportunities are, or where there aren't, and that we may be exposed in a way that reveals weaknesses or deficiencies or areas that we are less than secure in, where we lack confidence to be in it. And so people resist that. And here's what I'm going to recommend to you, because in our Culture Shot and Hawks Agency and all the things that we do, we like practical, functional solutions as well as entirely new ways of thinking, as well as language that offers understanding in a rapid way. We love solving the right problems, and we love thinking about them in a way that enables that. And so when it comes to change in our life and our resistance to change, I'm going to propose to you that it's something that I just said, that maybe the way we're viewing it, thinking about it, seeing it, is lacking the positive possibilities of potential that lie within the change. And what I find is that people sometimes have a knee-jerk reaction. It's just like, this isn't good, this is not good. And the reality is, there's always good. There's always the possibility of something better than good and even amazing transpiring. Oftentimes actually, we don't see possibility till we go through the change, and then opportunities make themselves visible, or areas that we had fear of, those fears then turn into excitement, and maybe nothing externally, people-wise, decision-wise, reality-wise changed except the way we thought about it. What I loved about my conversation with Jess, who you'll see in just a little bit, and she talks about the mindset as well. Went through devastating heartbreak, and the scenario, there's no way you could paint it positively unless you were the mom and you chose to paint it. She created dance parties in the hospital room, and it was her choice to do that. It was her choice to look and see. And what I'm going to suggest to you as you hear, and we talk about growth and change, and you may be facing change or resisting change at this moment. Here's what I will offer to you. Because we have so much emotions that sneak up on us, sometimes sabotage our lives, that they overwhelm us or overtake us, here's what I want to recommend to you. Is I'd like you to think about creating a change reaction process. So when change comes and you have all these emotions that are stirring, or you're kind of freaking out, or your mind's, just can't sleep at night because you have thoughts going and going and going, you have something written down that you go to. What I find cuts through most effectively when emotions are ramped up high, when we can't settle our minds, is this very simple tactic. Ask a question. Asking yourself questions. Now, you may ask others as well, but asking yourself questions about what you're feeling, what you're thinking, what you're imagining will really be useful. Here's a question to start with. If I were the one who initiated this change, what about it would I be excited about? I'm going to say that again. If I were the one who initiated this change, what about it would I be excited about? See, because when I'm making changes, I married a girl. I definitely chose that. I'm moving to Minnesota to be with her. Leaving behind everything I know and roots and foundations and friends, but I'm excited about it. It's not happening to me. I'm choosing it. So I see all the possibilities. If you were to look at the change that's happening to you and you said, I was the one who initiated this, right? You know I love an ownership mindset. I know us, you know I love us reaching for responsibility that's not even ours. But if you said, if I were the one who caused this, what would stir my heart positively about the possibilities? Just do that for a second. Like, write that down, so when you're all frustrated and you're complaining and you're whining to people and you're having issues with stuff, just go to this change reaction process journal. This one question. If I were the one to initiate. Now here's a second question. I know this is going to challenge some of you. Is because you and I think we're the center of the world. And so when we look at change or growth or adjustments, it always comes back to us first. How does this affect me? No matter what age we are, there's this nuclear self-centeredness that just is persistent which does not serve us well. So the second question is, in this growth, change, adjustment, in this thing that's disruptive, how are others benefiting from it? How are others possibly experiencing greater possibility in their life? Now, I know, don't get jealous, don't get envious, don't get angry. But if you have a heart and mind that's not just about you, sometimes when you step back and you look at things that are happening around you that's creating change and disruption and challenge, other people are thriving. Other people are getting the chance to lean into something that they hadn't before. And this is not this game of life, this game of work, this games of relationship, they're an ongoing progressive, evolutionary experience. Sometimes some are thriving and sometimes some are not thriving. And sometimes we're thriving and sometimes we're not. But what I've found is with people with even just a little bit of big-heartedness and big-mindedness can look around and see some of the changes transpiring, some of the things that's difficult for us, but go, hey, it looks like some other people are finding their footing. Looks like some other people doing that. You know what? I bet that will happen for me too as well. So I don't want to take all your time. There's so many great conversations that happened today, so I want to get those to you. Listen, I want to apologize again. I just hate that our live LinkedIn transmission did not make the connection and go live. But you know what? There'll be more opportunities for things like that. And I'm so grateful for you. And I just want to invite you to enjoy the conversations you're going to hear, the messages you're going to hear. And listen, I want to encourage you. Start writing down. I gave you 2 things to start with on your change, reaction, progression, process journey. But change usually is a fruit of growth. So when growth is happening, change will occur. And so finding your place in that is really so special. Thank you very much and enjoy this time. People can love change because change can be good. It can bring new things in their life. But when you and I met, you told me about devastating change in your world, but just that idea of pivot. You have the career and life you have now is drastically impacted and changed from what I imagine you intended. So first of all, tell us how you mentally absorb and work through drastic change, and then second, how you have navigated a career and life and approach to life that has served you and your family well.
So my name's Jess. I love Greg and I love bugging him, and I'm so glad that we're here, even if this looks different than what maybe you had intended. And guess what? I think that is like par for the course, baby. It's like how life goes. You have something planned. You can do all the things right, and then it doesn't work, or you have to change your plans, change the course. And I've gotten really, really good at that. So you had 2 questions for me. The first question was like, how do you navigate change? Was that right?
Well, big, hard change. People have changes in life, but you've had devastating, drastic changes.
Yeah. And I think to give context, depending on where you're watching this, what Greg's talking about for me, one of my devastating major changes was my kid died. Not what I anticipated, not what was part of my plans. And I think a lot of what we can look at, you get career change, financial change, loss of dream change, grief change, relationship change, health change. All of a sudden you're like trucking along, you're on a path, you think you're where you need to go, and then out of left field you get slammed with, something that you weren't expecting or anticipating. And one of the most critical pieces that I have learned that has, I think, catapulted me into what I would call forward momentum, which I think many people want because we're feeling stuck or we're just in that same cycle, is about radically accepting what's happened. And a powerful tool that I use is not asking the question why, but asking the question, so now what? You don't get to choose your circumstances often. Like, I would not choose all of the things not working out, but you get a choice.
Yeah, me either.
Right? Dang, like you put in the work, you did the test run. For myself, it's like you put all the plans into place. We planned an event for our charity last year, and down to the T, and then we had insane forest fires and the smoke was so bad you couldn't be outside. There was like soot falling. And again, it's like you can sit in the pity party of like, Mike, isn't this happening? We did all this work. Or you can go like, what's our so now what? And in that moment, for
Hmm.
that example, my so now what was is like the people that are attending this event are able-bodied and they're healthy. So like what a blessing. Number two is we don't get to do this outside. We're gonna do it in a room. And so you can still create magic in that space, but that was a choice because I wanted to just like stay under the covers and be like, "Bah, that wasn't worth it, or what a waste of time." And I think when we forget to radically accept it and say, okay, I don't choose this, but it is what it is. This is the radical acceptance piece. Now, what's my choice in this? How do I respond? And when you can say, what's my so
Hmm.
now what going to be? And you want to be somebody that's resilient, finding forward momentum, you get pretty creative and your brain will offer you a million and one solutions.
So let me ask you this, because a lot of times the so now what, I love that, and it sounds like, yes, do that. But there's a lot of people who rehearse the unfairness, the injustice, the I wish it was different,
Yeah.
and why couldn't it be? And so, the way you're saying, and just like, well, just shift over. Like, that's not the easiest things, especially when it is the loss of a dream, loss of an imagined life, like maybe a job, career loss and a relationship loss that they were like, I had put everything in this. So, is there any like progression towards how you shift into that? The so now what? Because I know enough people that it's just not that easy of an ask.
You don't just snap out of it, Greg? Like it doesn't just happen?
Now I'm pretty resilient, but some of it's long. Like these things, it doesn't just change a day. It's not just like a one night event. It's not just like a one hour online. It's like our whole life is disrupted, and the course of it now is not anything I had imagined. And so, like getting my arms around it, getting my head around it, just even accepting it still is like, is this really my reality now?
Yeah.
Like some of that progression. How do you work through some of those things?
I love that. So great question. You're in this, and I'm like, oh, just flip on and say, so now what? Bless. I mean, I've gotten really good at it, that, and that's now become my default setting. And that is my hope is that others who maybe hear this message or are walking through something difficult, then your default setting can be that. But if you're not there, part of this is looking at, will I stay in a victim mentality or will I stay in a hero mindset, problem mindset or possibility mindset? So it's great to talk about, but now what's the actual functional, how do I apply this to my life? And then what are the steps that I take? Because it's really hard. And again, I'm coming from this, COVID happened in our family and we had to remortgage our house, sell a vehicle, and you're going, how are we going to pay the bills this month? So it wasn't just like, what's our so now what honey going to be? Like, we're going to just pick up Uber driving. Oh, wait, we sold our vehicle, so we actually can't do that. Like,
Yeah.
I get it. You're in it. And part of that is processing the emotion and not shoving that down and being like, oh, like we talk about toxic positivity. Oh, it's fine. Everything's going to be fine. Well, no, in this moment, it isn't fine. It doesn't feel fine. And I think part of this is this emotional regulation of learning to process the emotions. You're allowed to be mad. You're allowed to, have sorrow or sadness or anguish or frustration or anger or hurt. You're allowed all of that. And guess what? Once you process those emotions, they still might come up. Like I didn't just process the emotions one time when my son died and be like, well, I've processed my grief and it's never going to come again. Or like, oh, I processed the loss of this dream and we're like 7 years behind where we thought we would be. Like you're still in that, but part of that is allowing your body to feel the feels. And it maybe sounds touchy feely, but rather than suppressing it, it's like, okay, I'm going to work through the anger. And if you want to work through emotions, one of the best things that you can do is go move your body. I don't care if it's like going for a walk outside, I don't care if it's going for a run or having a dance party in front of your mirror with the tunes cranked and nobody watching, but you have to do something and you're allowed to sit in it. I also love journaling. Like it sounds crazy, but like, I mean, Greg, if you saw my journal, you would probably have a little bit of like, I like to use some choice words when I'm frustrated, and Greg can fill you in on what those are and not appropriate for this recording. But like sometimes for me, and I talked to my therapist about this, there are no words to describe some of those feelings or some of the hurt or some of that deep loss. And so for me, there are choice languages that feel close to it, but because I don't have language around it. Also, I love getting in community with people. So like if I'm struggling with something, it's like finding somebody to say, hey, I'm going through a tough time, Greg, right now. Like my business isn't where I need it to be, and I've been struggling and I'm in my head because we have 60,000 thoughts a day, and a lot of those are repetitive. Some of them are really powerful, and some of them are really negative. And so sometimes
Mm-hmm.
when we can share some of the hard stuff, someone can actually help you go, Jess, is that really the truth? Is that really what it is? Or is that just maybe a thought that your brain's offering you and you've continued to hook on? And let's try and
Yeah,
find a more
yeah.
powerful thought. So just some simple things: movement, journaling, get around community, reach out to a friend. I ask for help a lot. I am an external processor. That's a lot of females like to externally process. You look at a guy like my dad, the silent generation, he's a typical, almost 70-year-old farmer. He would not be someone that's like, I'd love to talk about my feelings today. But I think there's a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
power in one of those tools to be able to navigate, to flip you out of why is this happening, and that victim mindset, that victim, mentality, and moving into a hero mentality. Okay, what do I need to show up? How can I put my cape on? How can I armor up?
Let me ask you this question, and then I'll let you go. Well, I've got two really. So the whole body. So you attach emotions to your body as an outlet, right? So you said exercise and dance, and I've read your book, and in your book, when you were going through the difficult time with your son, you would regularly dance, have little dance parties. And that seems a little counterintuitive while you're in it, because I think even as people listen to you, it's like, okay, I've experienced this thing, now I've got to do something about it. What I really appreciate about your model and kind of your spirit, and really why I wanted you on here to talk about some of this, is because even in the midst of, while it's really difficult, you were able to incorporate this joyous activity, and I attach a lot of joy to you and thinking of that in the midst of the real darkness, and that's a real gritty mental choice. It's not just flippant, we're going to dance. Like, it takes a lot of your spirit to do that while you're still in the midst of uncertainty, unknown, a lot of pain and fear that would just try to come in. So how do you do that? Like the conscious choice, like even when I'm like feeling the weight of sorrow, I'm feeling the fear is constantly trying to bombard my mind. I'm literally physically in an environment where it doesn't seem hopeful, or I'm not, like, the emotions are just uncontrollable, and yet you can go, I can consciously do this that has joy, that has physical movement, that involves other people, and it's demonstrative even against the environment you're kind of in. Like, you're kind of in a sad environment, like a really, like, everybody's just it's not really a joyous environment. So there's a lot in there, I know, but give us a condensed thought on how people, while they're in the grief, can do something physically joyous, that they can muster that courage, energy, and just will to do that.
I believe that you
That's a
just said
lot.
it. No, I just believe that you said it in the process. And you go back to, like, how do you do it when it's hard, when your body's saying no, when things are, when you want to shut down, when you want to turtle in. But again, our brain and our mind are so powerful. So what's the conversation that you're having with it? I mean, I think this is why Mel Robbins and the theory of 5 4 3 2 1, like, pull the trigger, 5 4 3 2 1, get out of the bed, 5 4 3 2 1, load the dishwasher, 5 4 3 2 1, go call the crazy client that you're like, I'm scared to ask for business. What if they say no? Like, where you need to start is in starting. It's just like, I'm just going to take one step. And I
In
think
what? Starting what?
we just need to start. That's it.
Just need to start. Okay.
And what I mean by start is, I think so many people play out the whole scenario, all the way through. And it's like, well, what if we just take one step and we're not going to worry about the 30? Like, no one just starts and runs a marathon. Well, running a marathon, and I go do it today. Like, you got to buy the
Yeah.
running shoes. You got to put on the clothes. Maybe you're going for a walk. Like, I know there's 70, 80, 90-year-olds. Like, they didn't just all of a sudden be like, I'm running a marathon tomorrow. They've just taken a step forward. And so I think
Yeah.
it's like, stop overcomplicating it. Like, this isn't a complex, like, there's nothing special about me. I just chose one thing, and it was like, turn on the music. Okay, I'm just going to move my body. I'm just going to invite people into that. And if you can just take one step, and it's a thing that you're like, your brain might be a little uncomfortable, like, oh man, this looks stupid. You're like, yeah, maybe. Or you could also be like, yeah, but this is also awesome. And so really working through the thoughts that are bouncing through your head in whatever scenario you are, personal, professional, in your work, it's like, okay, is that a powerful thought and does it serve me? So if you're getting blocked, if you don't feel like you can take and just start, it's like ask yourself, is this a powerful thought and does it serve me? And you can tell if it's a powerful thought because powerful thoughts lead to powerful actions, and powerful actions are what change us.
That's so good. Okay, I know you need to get going, so let's wrap up and have people, where can they find you? How can they connect with you? I want everybody that I know to know you and experience all of the goodness that you bring to the world.
Okay, you can find me when I'm hanging out with Greg Hawkes. I mean, Greg Hawkes and I, if you ever need joy, call the two of us up because we can bring that for you. But you can find me on all your platforms, LinkedIn, Instagram, my website, cheskajansen.ca. And again, I have a heart to help and serve and for others to access more joy in the everyday. The world is moving at a crazy pace, and I feel like we're feeling disconnected, discombobulated, confused, and we need joy and community and that forward momentum. And that's my goal, is to help people get unstuck, unlocked, and start living to the fullest. So, Greg, I'm sorry that this didn't go the way that you wanted it to, but in this, we got a conversation, which I'm grateful for. And I know that you're going to bounce back from this and figure it out. So I'm rooting for you. Thanks for having me. It's so good to see you.
Thank you. I'll see you. Bye. I'm going to invite John in now.
Bye.
My other friend, John Baldino.
What's happening?
Oh, just a little bit of challenge, a little bit of change. That's how you start out all of your business.
I mean, what are you gonna do? Technology sucks. What are you gonna do?
No, it's me. Technology is fantastic. My little test run just didn't lock in on the day of.
But you tested it, right? So
2 days ago, yeah, I put it in place. I was like, all right, I'm feeling good about it. It's one of those where you're like, okay, I got it. I'm gonna go away, and then I'll just come back and be ready to go. And it didn't happen.
and it didn't happen. What the heck?
So what we're doing is we're pivoting and just having the conversation like this, and then we can maybe post it or something. I can be like, okay, I suck. This happened, but guess what? I still got great friends talking about great things, and we'll go from there.
Awesome.
Okay, let's just start out then like I'm going to do. All right, so my friend John is here. We didn't get the live, but we're getting the recorded, and it's probably going to be even better because I don't know why. I don't know if it could be anytime John Baldino is in the room. It's fabulous.
It's important to have a 7-second delay for John Baldino, so this ensures that this can be edited.
Yeah, the sensors, maybe that's what it was, just too much awareness for the sensors, and we needed to do it that way. So, John, one of the things that I love about you is that you are an energized leader who is, from a distance, always willing to make changes for growth. And so change happens in different ways. Sometimes it happens to us. A few times we get to initiate it. And I wanted to focus on the few times because you're an initiator of change through growth. So in your personal life, in your professional life, in the business that you run. So I'd like to just kind of start, and we won't take too long, but just like the mindset you have moving towards growth, because growth always creates change, and it just seems like you're more willing to put yourself out towards growth with yourself personally and professionally. How do you do that? How do you do that for people listening and they're just stuck in a place and they wish they could, but there's just something that won't let them, fear or uncertainty? How have you developed patterns and habits in your life that kind of help you be consistent in moving towards growth?
Yeah, that's a robust question. So I'm like,
And these aren't pre-planned. I like to let people know these are just on the spot things.
The first thing I want to do is pour myself a drink. The thing that I would say to start with, though, in all seriousness, most of that lift has to do with the individual, and so the messaging that happens in our brains has short-circuited enough opportunities for you in your history. And so taking some time to sit down and identify why some of the voices in your head are telling you untruths, it's very important. Part of the reason why some people stay stuck, to your question, feel that they can't get ahead in certain ways is because there's some sort of negative messaging happening telling you, see, I told you, it's not going to work out for you. And more people struggle with that than we probably care to admit and or talk about. We hear it from some people, but quite frankly, it is not an unusual truth in human nature. And so that has to be dealt with first, because all of your planning, you may sit and quite frankly, buy the new journal and open it up and have all of your change plans going. But if you don't really believe that you're either capable and or worthy of advancing, of growing, then that is going to constantly sort of be the tether at your ankles that kick you back. So deal with that, right?
So let's break that for people. How do we untether from that limited small thinking?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing you need to do is find advocates that can speak messaging contrary to what it is that lives in your brain. So if you and I were chatting and I'm like, I know, Greg, I got this thing, that I'm thinking about doing. I really want to get healthier, or I really want to change jobs, or I really want to open my own business, or I really want to, whatever it is. And you say to me, that sounds great. I need to be able to respond to that to say, but I don't know if I can. If that's what I'm really thinking, risk with one person, and I trust Gray, so I would risk with one person to say, but I don't know if I can. That's what I need to hear from Greg, not lies, not fabrication of previous stuff, but opportunities for somebody who knows me to say, John, I don't know why you're saying that. Don't you remember this? Don't you recall that? And speak truth into this brain that might be stymied. Examples of where I lived differently. I experienced growth. It isn't that nothing ever works out for me. Sometimes as people, we slip into that always and never language, right? This always happens. I'm never going to. When you have one or two people in your life who say, I don't think you can say always. Don't you remember this? Or why are you saying never? Don't you remember that? Those kinds of things are really helpful to kind of get at that. If you are just sort of swallowing that perspective yourself, then it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, for sure. You want to get untethered, you got to let one or two people in, both from a vulnerability standpoint and then from an accountability standpoint. Because in 2 weeks, when I'm talking to Greg, he's going to say, how's that thing going? What are you doing about that? Right? What wheels have you put into motion? And if I'm like, if I'm sliding back into that self-doubt, Greg's going to say, okay, hold on. Let's recalibrate once again, because it's a habit to unlearn as an individual. And so it may take 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 times before you really start to say, yes, I'm believing what I'm hearing now, and I'm telling myself now, shut up, voice. That's not true. That's not true.
Yeah, I've definitely had a tendency to believe my own lies. Like I'm the best sucker for my own lies. Like I can sell myself on something and be like, that's true, and it is not true at all.
Yeah.
Having people outside, so that's so good. Let me continue on this path of robust questioning and just get to the heart of things. The other resistor to people really going towards that is the fear factor of unknown, or I always say people love change, they just fear failing. And so it's not that, I'm always like, people would love to have their salary change. People would love to change locations to work in Hawaii. And, people would love, a promotion. And people love change when they perceive it to be a benefit to them. And so why people say most of the time that most people resist change, it's not they resist change, they resist failing in whatever this next thing is, where they're like, I'm doing good now, I'm succeeding now, or I feel really confident now, and all that unknown, I may fail, or I may not be as good, or so how do we, that same thinking, because it's a lies to ourselves, and then fear feeds some of that, but that idea of how do you exert faith in a work environment or in your own personal environment that says, contrary to these fears, it's worth me taking the risk? Because we're loss averse people. Like by human nature, we would rather just hold on to what we have than gain something we don't. And so that's the default position. So how have you found, because you again appear to be able to reach beyond these things to access new experiences in life, new opportunities in life, new places in life? How do you combat fear that would keep us limited in pursuit of growth, which causes change?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, that was a great setup. I want to make sure I share that. Really, that was a great setup because to exactly your point, if I go out and I buy a scratch-off lottery ticket and I win the $2 million prize, I'm probably not going to sit there fretting around, this is going to cause so much change. What am I?
Yeah, I better throw this away. This is going to change my life.
I should shred this, clearly, right? Like, you're
And
not.
most people actually should. That's what's funny about that example, John. Most people should.
I mean, there's lots of podcasts about what happens, right, with that. But
Yeah.
people are going to be like, woohoo, like this change I'm welcoming. Fear, most of the time, in the example that we're talking about here, fear where there isn't a presupposition about known results. If I win the $2 million prize, I'm okay with taking the risk there, even though I've never won $2 million before, because I have some preconceived consideration of what those results will be. When I'm starting something new, not winning the lottery, but maybe taking the risk to leave my current comfortable role and open up a business, or the single life that I've been living for 32 years, that I found someone and now I'm at this precipice of, am I really going to go forward with this person or am I not? Right? Because it's going to cause a big change. I'm comfortable in the life that I know. And I may love this person, but am I willing to sort of sacrifice then what I know for what I don't quite know? I think that one of the ways in which we combat fear to start with is to ask the great question of yourself, which is, so you take this chance. So what? So what happened then? Well, I fail. So, but then what? But then people will think I'm a failure. Okay, I can argue all day that that's not true.
Yeah.
But that you may have failed in this one thing. Or maybe I just say to you, okay, people think you're a failure. So, what will you lose? Some Facebook plans? Like, what is it? What's really this? But what is the thing? And I know, obviously we have a short time that we're chatting with each other. And I'm not trying to be super cavalier, but I am trying to get you to think, just keep going with that question. So, where does it lead you? 12 years ago, I left a very well-paying, very comfy VP role and started Humareso as an HR consultant from the ground. Nobody threw me a whole bunch of money. I was scratching every ticket I could find. There was no money that was starting this thing, right? It was bootstrap and got it going. My spouse said, I'm sorry, what are you doing? And I said, I really need to try this. We have 6 months in the bank. If it doesn't work out, I have to now answer the so. So if in 6 months it doesn't work out, what am I going to do? I told her, I said, I'll go and pour coffee at Wawa. I'm not proud. My identity can't be found in this work. My identity needs to be found in something much deeper. And you talked about faith. Where are my core values? If I am a religious faithful person, what does that look like? If my family is part of my core belief structure, what is that like? This job cannot define me. This failed entrepreneurial opportunity cannot define me. Bad experiences with credit can't live in my mind and define me for years. Even those that might be ex-offenders coming out of either addiction-related troubles or criminal-related troubles, that cannot be what defines you all of your days. And if someone wants to keep talking to you about that as if it does, so I an alcoholic. So part of that really is that toughness to say my skin is thicker than I give myself credit for. I'm not unloving. but I don't want to give that more power than it deserves in my life.
That's so good. Okay, John, this has been great, but I don't want to keep you any longer. Give me ways people can connect with you and find you and get to know you like I get to know you, or not that well, but maybe
I
at
was
least
just gonna say,
somewhat.
I don't know if I want to share that. If you could please follow, connect with me on LinkedIn. If you search John Baldino HR, I should pop right up to the top. Please connect with me there. I'm going to be excited to chat.
Okay, that's what we'll do. Thank you so much. I sure appreciate your time, and I love you, dude. Thank you. Oh my goodness, this has been such good information today, and it just keeps getting better. My friend Monica is here. She does a killer job of communicating all around progress and forward motion and decision making and leadership and so many things in her life. She's been a model of how to navigate change, and so I am certain she's going to have some killer concepts, thoughts, and ideas that will just rattle around your brain and cause you to have a new thought, possibly even a new way of thinking that's going to be really useful in your world. Monica, come on and let these folks have at it. Thank you.
We all know that there are some challenges that change presents. And to me, the biggest challenge and the biggest problem that change presents is that it triggers fear. Change can really trigger some deep fears in a lot of people, and fear in and of itself is a very poor leader, and yet we see that it is pervasive in the workplace. I was looking at a study recently, and it talked about the main triggers of change that really cultivate a culture of fear in the workplace, and there was three top things. The first one is an increased workload. The other one is a decrease in job security. That change, that decrease in the job market and that job security triggers fear. And then the third top thing that triggers that fear through change is a downward spiral of the economy. And all of these things are present in so many workplaces and so many markets. Everyone I talk to, honestly, across the board, is facing these changes and so has to wrestle a lot of times with the fear that brings up inside of them. So what do we do with that fear that is triggered when there is changes? For me, when I'm flooded, or when anyone is flooded with change for that matter, I think it's so important that first of all, we recognize what is true and what is good in spite of that change. So you ground yourself again. What can I count on? What is true? What is good in spite of the downward spiral? In spite of the heavier workload? What is true and good in spite of that? Are you a strong person? Are you going to make it through no matter what? Do you have a support system in a family? You count your blessings. It's that element of gratefulness and grounding. I remember when my kids were very, very little, when they were babies. And one of the innate fears that we all have as humans is loud noises. And I remember one night after the kids were asleep that the fire alarm started going off in our house. And we walked around and realized that there wasn't anything wrong, but something was faulty with the system. And so as we tried to figure that out, I pulled my kids and set them on the laundry room washer and dryer. And they were probably 10 months old and 2 years old at the time. And I remember they were crying, they were panicked. Why? Because of that loud noise. That change in the frequency really triggered a lot of fear inside of them. And so I remember setting them down and just having them look me in the eyes. And I was looked calm, and I said, everything's okay. I'm here. I know it's loud, but it's going to be okay. And sure enough, when they were able to ground themselves and realize the truth in spite of the change, they were grounded. They were able to calm down and kind of regulate that fear. And then we were able to actually deal with the main problem, which was the system and what was going wrong with it. So then after we calm ourselves and after we ground ourselves, or you help people around you ground yourselves, like, yes, there's been this change, but here's what we have to work with, or here's what we can count on, that kind of thing. But then after that, we actually do have to deal with the problems that changes often present us. And for this, I really want to bring attention to this tool that I have called Process a Problem. And yes, Changes can trigger fear, but more than that, those changes that are often negative can trigger problems. And those are things that we can actually deal with. And there's a system to deal with them. I'm going to present this, and we're going to put it in the link as a link in the comments or get it to you as well. But I want to just break down the process as to what we do when a change presents a problem. The first thing that we have to do is we have to pause. We've got to take a deep breath and ask this question: what's really going on here? What's really going on here? You know, so much in life and in leadership is being able to ask great questions. Great leaders ask great questions. Great problem solvers ask great questions. So that first question is, what's actually going on here? So yes, it might trigger fear, but then get down to the reality, what's actually happening. And then the second question we've got to ask has to do with our perspective. And that is, where's the hope in this? Where's the opportunity? Like, if you were able to take an elevated perspective of the changes that are triggering fear in you right now, if you were able to take a step back and go, what's actually going on here? And where is the opportunity? Where is the hope? What would you see? What would you see? Where would the opportunity be? That's where hope really brings in the light, and it breaks through. And we see possibilities where we too often see roadblocks. This third thing that we must do after we pause and we gain perspective is then we make a plan. So we say, from that pause, from that understanding of the problem, from that hopeful perspective, what can we do? What can we actually plan out to do from here? What is our next right step? And then after that, we put it into practice. And so many times we think that we can just do something one time and then it's fixed. But that's not true. To really solve a problem or to adjust to a change properly, it's systemizing that growth. How can we practice something new in light of the new reality, in light of the change? That's really putting into practice that hope, putting into practice progress, that forward motion. And then the last thing we've got to do is persist even when it's hard. So many people get stuck in the negative because of the results of change, and they just live there. It's like a swamp. It just like sucks you in deeper and deeper. And unless we persist when it gets hard, then we will never see the new hope come from progress as a result of the new reality and the change. And so bringing that all together, if you have a change right now that is triggering fear in your life or in maybe a team member's life or maybe in an entire group of people, make sure people know, here's what we can count on. Here's what's true in spite of the change. And then process the problem by asking the right questions. Again, I'm going to post this and we're going to make sure you have the link for this tool to process a problem. But you can really make progress in spite of the change and forward motion, even if the changes are negative. Whether you initiate them or someone else does, you can make progress. I believe it. Hope you got something out of this and look forward to meeting you again in the future.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am so excited about my friend John Bob Semple. He has been an integral part the last few years here at Hawks Agency, helping leaders build bridges, cover gaps, find ways to integrate, and really just make big impacts in organizations. The guy is active in nonprofit world. The guy is active in whole cities and communities. And so, John, I'm going to just stop talking. You're fabulous. People are going to love you. Give us what you got around change.
Greg, thank you so much for this opportunity to engage. This is such an incredible topic that is germane to all of us, regardless of our background, the role that we have. Change happens consistently. When I think about change, I oftentimes think about the promise of change and also the threat of change. The promise of change. Hey, good things are on the horizon. The threat of change. Those things might hurt me. Oftentimes as leaders, we are engaged in leaning in because that's why they gave us the role. That's why they trusted us to be able to step up. But most of the time, the people that we are given responsibility to serve and to lead, there's a good chance that change is scary for them. That means we've got to be in a position to look at change not only from our own lens, but the lens of those that we serve. In my community, oftentimes when we go and engage in this work of change, trying to help disrupt the status quo, we oftentimes are faced with resistance. That resistance is natural. That resistance comes with the threat of, will I be seen through this process? Will my value still be the same on the other end of time, on the other end of things? We talk about at Hawks Agency and my message about the gap. The gap, I think, is the status quo. The status quo, it's that thing that no one wants to cross because it's safe on this side of the shore. But change ends up being the bridge. So what's our role? We're the facilitators of change. We are the builders of that bridge. It gets us from where we are today to the other side, disrupting the status quo to allow others to cross. You see, the status quo is hard. We see how comfortable the status quo is. The status quo, it is serving us well. The status quo feels like I can handle what we have right now. Change says to that status quo, either by force, you're about to be disrupted, or by intention, you're about to be disrupted. Change is hard. The status quo is hard. But even harder is change together. Change together is so difficult. Why? I can jump in that pool of getting to the other side of the status quo all by myself. I can swim real hard. I'm good. But are you going to tell me someone's got to follow me? There's a chance that I've got to bring others along swimming across the status quo. Wait up. They might not be as good of a swimmer as I am. They may not be able to move as fast as I can. As a matter of fact, there's a good chance that they will get hung up on things that don't matter while we're trying to cross this river, this gap, this chasm of the status quo to get to the other side. Well, guess what, friends? That's why we need bridge builders. That's why we need a mentality of people that help us facilitate change. There are 4 principles I want to drop with you of how bridge builders step up to the plate to help us get to the other side of the status quo, or get to the other side of the change that we have. Bridge builders help, number 1, through proximity. As leaders, oftentimes we feel proximate to the process of change. We feel proximate to the outcome of change. But bridge builders feel proximate to the people. We get to understand what it is that they see as the threat. We get to help them realize that though they don't get to dictate the terms by which change happens, but we see things from their perspective because we ask. We go to the place where the work is being done, as they talk about in our in the work of Kaizen. Let's go to the place where the work is done. Let's go to the place where the change is being had. We've got to make sure we're proximate to people as we're leading them through change. Secondly, we've got to make sure that we keep our eyes on the prize. We've got to lead through intention, and that means we're communicating about the prize on the other side of change. We're talking about where we can go together, and the fact that, guess what, on the other side, we'll be meeting our mission, we'll be reaching our goals, and our key indicators that we're on the right track are what's at stake. Man, there's good things on the other side of this discomfort, on the other side of this disruption, on the other side of the questions that we all have as we're leading through change. We're going to talk about our intention to get to the prize. Number 3, we've got to be patient with ourselves and with others as we go through this. I think of our bridge building characteristic of curiosity. In order to be patient, or in order to be curious, I've got to be patient. I've got to recognize that there's a process at stake here. And so as a bridge builder, I'm going to be patient with myself, patient with other people, and patient with the process. There's going to be any number of things that we cannot predict. But what gets us excited, what we know is that if I'm patient in giving myself grace through a process that I cannot dictate how fast it'll go or what will happen, if I am giving myself grace and giving grace in the process, I am not going to ask myself or others to be in control. Patience requires that I'm asking questions more than I am finding definite answers. Bridge builders help us influence the culture of our organization going through change because they recognize the power of patience and the power of curiosity as we learn through the change. And then finally, I think of our the great philosophers from Friends, the great philosophers who said the number one word when we're moving furniture, right? Pivot, 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 pivot. The thing that's so exciting is change requires hard work. Hard work requires consistency in pivoting. We cannot find ourselves in a place where we're expecting from a process that isn't going to change us as we're adjusting. We have to pivot, pivot, pivot. Those 4 things, again, if you're taking notes. Number 1, bridge builders make good change through proximity. We're going to be proximate to the people. Secondly, we've got to be eyes on the prize. We have got to make intentions to get to that prize and remember what's on the other side of the change. We've got number 3, to be patient with ourselves as we are patient with the process and learning as we go, being curious as we go, asking those questions, but being patient with ourselves, the process, and other people. And then finally, we've got to pivot, pivot, pivot. It takes hard work to keep adapting as we make change. Greg, the status quo is hard. Change is hard. Change together is hard. And that's why we need bridge builders just like you.
Dude, that is so good. So good. Thank you so much. So insightful. John, you've had so much work with people, building bridges and working with that. When you think of a conversation that you've had when people are resistant to change, what's their number one reason that they just resist trying to go against the status quo?
I think oftentimes we assume it's a matter of philosophy or approach, but most of the time we're thinking about ourselves. How will this affect me? How will this affect the people I care about? Will my interests be taken into consideration on the other side? We oftentimes face resistance around people getting their due credit for how they've contributed, things that they've done in the past. I oftentimes try to face this resistance with an intentional place of communicating the value you've given, how you've contributed, recognizing that though change is coming, you've been working at this a long time. And I want to talk about how you helped get us here. Every time that this gives us a chance for people to feel seen. I think when change is coming, people don't want to think that the process or the change is more important than the contributions that they've made, regardless of the fact that they don't get to dictate the terms. We don't negotiate with people who want to say, guess what? I don't like this. I'm going to take my ball and walk home. That don't work. But I can, as a leader, make sure that they feel seen by talking about the contributions that they've made to this point, and more importantly, their opportunity to contribute in the future. If I can't make that promise that there is a future that takes into account everything that they want, I do want to communicate that their perspective was considered as we're making those changes.
That's good. That's good, my friend. Okay, thank you very much. Sure appreciate you. And we'll get people connected to you here on LinkedIn, on the Hawks Agency website. They can get connected with you on Instagram. John is always doing Insta stories. So
yes.
We'll see
Thank
you, man.
you, guys.
Yep. Bye. Oh my goodness. Didn't I tell you this was an amazing collaboration of really some strong voices who have some amazing perspectives that really are here to serve you. I hope you got loads of good information in this compressed time because we want you to embrace change, Act like you're the one who initiated it and find out all the possibilities and opportunities that will cause you to thrive in this season of life for you. Man, we want the best for you. If we can be of service to you in any way, you know, get on our Hawks Agency website. Please connect with everyone here on LinkedIn, and let's form partnerships that move people towards all the best possibilities so that you and I can live in the fullness of our potential. Have an amazing day.